emergency services line because Payne was apparently acting erratically, that he could be experiencing some sort of drug induced psychosis or another episode. The caller told the dispatcher, "We need to send someone with urgency because I don't know if the guest's life is in danger because he's in a room with a balcony and we're afraid he could do something that threatens his life." Now, by the time they got there, a few minutes later, Payne was dead. Forensic experts reportedly found 25 injuries that were, quote, compatible with those caused by falling from a height. It's according to the autopsy report. The thing about that is, and I'm bringing in Joseph now, when you and I spoke about this last, you said you found 25 injuries to be caused by that fall to be highly improbable, right?
Free falling through the air 45 feet, and it's in a courtyard. So one can assume that this is probably ceramic tile, maybe even poured concrete. When you hit that surface, you don't bounce. I think a lot of people have an idea that you bounce about, when you strike the ground. You don't. I'm not saying he hit terminal velocity at that altitude, 45 feet, but what I am saying is that most people are not going to walk away from that, let alone stand up and then create other injuries that are not necessarily associated with the initial impact injury. You might find, let's just play out a scenario. Let's say
Yeah.
someone fell off of a balcony and they struck between their shoulder blades, and then as a result they kind of whiplash back and they strike their head, kind of the occipital area. You can have those two injuries. They're not
Yep.
mutually exclusive in any way. However, if you've got multiple injuries all over various surfaces of your body, that dog won't hunt. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of like when you hear parents who are abusing children, they'll say, "Yeah, my kid fell out of a tree, broke his arm." Okay, but why do they have injuries on the leg, the foot, the other arm, on the back of the neck? All this, it doesn't make sense. And I can't imagine any forensic practitioner that would make that assessment and say it publicly.
By the way, what do I talk about all the time here on Sidebar? I talk about the law, I talk about legal rulings, right? Well, I have a landmark from a layperson's perspective. Let's say he were to fall face down. And so you have, could they say, well, he had an injury to the right side of his face, the right side of his temple, his cheek, his jaw, his arm, his shoulder, his elbow? Like, would they count it all as 25 injuries? And I'm just thinking about it, how a fall might result in that. Because, and I'll say that because here's the other way I ask about it. It's believed that Payne was alone in his room when he fell, and police have reported that that room was in disarray, that there were broken items everywhere. So now I'm wondering, could it really be from the fall? Maybe they're categorizing maybe something small as a separate injury, or is there
Yeah,
something from the state of that room that might say maybe that's where the injuries were sustained?
yeah, and I'm glad we revisited this. Remember, we talked about this the other day, Jesse. The idea that you got the room trashed. I've got visions of the Who from the 1970s of Pete Townsend going through and ripping walls out and everything. And yeah, you're going to generate injuries like that. We don't know what items in the room were destroyed or disrupted as well. Also, one of the things we look for when you have either lacerations, abrasions, or contusions, you try to find a pattern there. Okay. Now, if he has like skinned up knuckles, for instance, or the back of the hand, there's maybe, I don't know, a square shaped bruise. That's not necessarily going to marry up with an impact directly on the ground beneath this balcony. I want to go back up into the room and search all of the surfaces. I want to look for blood deposition. Like, let's just say he's picked something up, thrown it to the ground. Maybe it was glass. He picked it up again and cut himself. And it doesn't have to be a major cut. They could be counting a single glass cut on his hand. Also, they keep saying balcony. He went over the balcony. Okay, how did he get out onto the balcony? Um, did he have to force the door open? Did he break the glass to get out there, or was it just wide open and you can go anywhere you want? I have no idea. But to sit there and say that all of these injuries originated from a single fall, I'm not buying it. I've had people that have taken nosedives off of skyscrapers, in big cities, and you would think that, the body would be obliterated. Most of the time, you're going to get a single point of impact. Now, it might be very, very grotesque and very involved, but you're not going to get 25 separate injuries
Yeah.
from a single fall.
Let me ask you this. So on Wednesday night,